Hello there. This is a calm space designed for rest. There is nothing you need to focus on, and nothing you need to remember. You can listen, or simply let the sound pass by. If you fall asleep, that is perfectly fine. Allow your body to settle. Let your breathing slow, and let your attention soften. We will begin now. Repetition. Empty museum after closing hours exists without intention. It no longer waits for movement or response. Its structure remains, but its purpose softens. The building does not change shape. Walls remain where they were placed. Floors continue to connect rooms in the same sequence, but the relationship between these elements shifts. Corridors no longer guide visitors. They extend without instruction. Without footsteps, distance feels different. A hallway that once felt brief now feels longer, not because it grows, but because nothing interrupts it. Rooms no longer introduce themselves. There is no first impression, no expectation of what comes next. Each space exists independently. Connection remains, but urgency disappears. Lighting becomes uniform. No exhibit is emphasized. No artifact is framed for attention. Without focus, hierarchy dissolves. One room no longer feels more important than another. The museum becomes evenly weighted. Display cases remain closed. Their contents are present but inactive. Objects no longer explain themselves. Glass reflects softly. Reflections drift without forming images that hold attention. The floor absorbs sound. Even imagined footsteps feel distant. Silence behaves differently here. It does not feel empty. It feels contained. Walls absorb sound rather than return it. Ceilings hold air without echo. Movement feels optional. Remaining still feels equally valid. The museum no longer suggests a route. Paths exist, but they do not invite. Following direction loses meaning. There is no arrival to anticipate. Anticipation fades. Rooms repeat familiar proportions. Repetition removes novelty. Without novelty, attention relaxes. The museum does not communicate information. It communicates arrangement. Arrangement does not ask for interpretation. Interpretation rests. Time becomes less defined. Moments blend without markers. The museum does not record time. It simply continues. Security lighting remains constant. It does not shift or respond. Consistency lowers alertness. Corners lose tension. There is no expectation beyond them. Expectation requires engagement. Engagement fades. The building no longer performs. Performance requires observers. Observers are absent. What remains is structure without narrative. Walls separate space without meaning. Doors remain closed without implication. Open areas feel suspended, not waiting, just existing. Ceilings feel higher when unused. Space expands when attention does not compress it. The museum no longer presents history. It presents volume. Volume does not ask to be understood. Movement slows naturally. Slowing does not feel forced. The museum allows presence without participation. Presence without participation feels neutral. Neutrality reduces mental effort. The building does not react to absence. It remains exactly as designed. Design exists independently of use. Rooms no longer hold memory. They hold air. Air remains still. Stillness spreads. The museum exists as a sequence of spaces, connected but unassertive. Nothing draws focus. Nothing recedes. Everything remains evenly distributed. The structure does not conclude. It does not open into anything else. It simply continues, quietly holding its form after closing hours. Asterisk. After closing hours, the museum becomes a place of movement without direction. Corridors remain, but their purpose changes. During the day, corridors guide visitors. At night, they simply connect space to space. There is no reason to follow them in sequence, no suggestion of where to go next. A corridor that once directed attention now allows it to drift. Walls extend without instruction. Distance feels different without interruption. Without footsteps, length becomes noticeable. The absence of movement stretches space. Time no longer compresses it. Corners no longer carry anticipation. Nothing waits beyond them. Waiting requires expectation. Expectation dissolves. Corridors repeat similar proportions. Repetition removes novelty. Without novelty, attention loosens. Light along the corridor remains even. No area is brighter than another dot. Uniform lighting removes hierarchy. Hierarchy would suggest importance. Importance is unnecessary. Doorways appear without invitation. They remain closed or open without meaning. Passing them does not imply choice. Choice would require decision. Decision-making rests. The corridor becomes a neutral passage, not a path toward something, just a continuation of space. Sound behaves differently here. Any sound would be isolated. Isolation discourages movement. The corridor absorbs silence. It does not return it. Walls hold air quietly. Ceilings remain steady above. The floor reflects no activity. Even imagined movement feels distant. The corridor no longer connects experiences. It connects volumes. Volume does not ask for interpretation. As corridors intersect, their intersections feel soft. No junction demands attention. Turning or continuing feels the same. Sameness removes orientation pressure. Orientation pressure keeps the mind active. Here, activity fades. That the museum does not guide passage. It allows wandering without purpose. Purpose activates thought. Thought quiets. Corridors stretch gently between rooms. Rooms wait without expectation. Moving through the corridor does not change anything. Remaining still does not change anything. Equivalence dissolves. Urgency fades. The museum continues to exist as a sequence of passages. Passages do not announce arrival. Arrival implies completion. Completion is irrelevant. The corridor does not end. It transitions. Transition happens without emphasis. Without emphasis, nothing marks progress. Progress loses meaning. The corridor becomes background. Background does not demand focus. Focus releases. The museum remains connected through these silent paths. Paths exists without guidance. The building does not react to absence. It continues exactly as structured. Corridors hold space together quietly. After closing hours, after closing hours, light in the museum no longer directs attention. It settles into balance. During the day, light highlights. At night, it equalizes. No display is emphasized. No surface stands out. Illumination becomes even. Evenness removes hierarchy. Without hierarchy, nothing asks to be noticed. Shadows soften rather than deepen. They do not conceal, they simply remain. Edges lose sharpness. Corners do not suggest transition. Light rests on walls without instruction. Walls accept it without response. The museum no longer performs for the eye. Vision relaxes. Glass reflects faintly. Reflections drift without forming images that hold focus. Focus would require contrast. Contrast is absent. Light does not move. It remains constant. Consistency lowers alertness. Ceilings appear higher when light does not frame them. Space expands quietly. Floors absorb illumination. They do not return it sharply. Movement is unnecessary to understand space. Stillness reveals the same arrangement. The museum does not signal where to look. Looking becomes optional. Optional looking does not demand effort. Rooms blend into one another through shared tone. Boundaries exist, but they are gentle. Gentle boundaries do not interrupt awareness. Light outlines structure without explaining it. Explanation would require attention. Attention softens. Security lighting remains unchanged. No pulse, no shift. Time becomes indistinct when light does not mark it. Moments overlap. Shadow gathers softly behind objects. Objects do not emerge from it. Emergence would invite curiosity. Curiosity fades. The museum remains readable without emphasis. Understanding happens passively. Passive understanding quiets thought. The building does not respond to darkness. It holds light as designed. Design remains neutral. Neutrality reduces mental effort. The museum does not change with observation. It appears the same whether seen or not. This sameness releases expectation. Expectation dissolves. Light no longer frames history. It frames volume. Volume does not ask to be interpreted. Rooms feel suspended in equal tone. Nothing advances, nothing recedes. The museum continues quietly, held in balanced illumination. After closing hours, silence in the museum does not feel empty. It feels organized. Sound no longer moves freely. It becomes contained by structure. During the day, noise fills space. Footsteps overlap. Voices blur. At night, sound separates. Each potential sound would exist alone, not layered, not supported. This isolation changes perception. The museum no longer masks sound. It reveals it. Walls hold silence differently than they hold noise. Noise spreads. Silence settles. Ceilings absorb quiet without echo. There is no return. Echo would suggest distance. Distance would require awareness. Awareness softens. The absence of sound stretches time. Moments feel longer, not slower, but less divided. Without sound cues, there are no markers, no beginning, no end. The museum does not signal transition through sound. Rooms do not announce themselves. A corridor entered feels the same as a corridor left. Sameness stabilizes perception. The building's acoustics were designed for presence. Without presence, they become neutral. Neutral acoustics do not stimulate attention. Attention loosens. The museum does not hum. It does not vibrate. Air remains still. Still air carries silence evenly. Even silence removes focus. Focus would require change. Change is absent. Every room holds quiet at the same level. No space feels louder or softer. Hierarchy dissolves. Without hierarchy, movement loses meaning. A footstep imagined does not travel far. It would stop quickly. This imagined containment discourages motion. Motion feels unnecessary. Silence presses gently against surfaces. It does not bounce. Bounce would create rhythm. Rhythm would invite listening. Listening fades. The museum's materials, stone, glass, would absorb rather than reflect. Absorption calms. Calm spreads gradually. Sound no longer defines space. Space defines silence. This reversal alters awareness. Awareness does not sharpen. It diffuses. The museum does not feel large or small. Scale becomes irrelevant without sound. A large hall and a narrow room hold silence equally. Equality reduces effort. Effort fades. There is no background noise to orient attention. No distant murmur. Orientation becomes optional. Optional orientation does not activate thought. Thought rests. The museum does not react to quiet. It accepts it. Acceptance does not require adjustment. Adjustment would require engagement. Engagement dissolves. Silence becomes a structural element, not an absence, but a presence shaped by walls and ceilings. This shaped silence remains constant. Constancy lowers alertness. The building no longer communicates through sound, it communicates through stillness. Stillness does not demand response. Response ends. Rooms remain connected through shared quiet. Quiet flows gently between spaces. Flow does not create direction. Direction loses relevance. The museum holds silence without intention. Silence remains evenly distributed. Nothing draws attention. Nothing recedes. Everything exists at the same acoustic distance. The building remains balanced and quiet. After closing hours, silence in the museum does not shift as one moves. It remains consistent across distance. A room entered carries the same quiet as the room left behind. This continuity removes spatial tension. Tension would require contrast. Contrast does not appear. The museum's acoustic design becomes more apparent through absence. Spaces once meant to manage sound now hold none. Hallways no longer channel noise. They simply extend quiet from one volume to another. Quiet does not accelerate. It does not slow. It exists evenly. Doors no longer mark transitions through sound. Opening or closing does not register. The boundary between rooms becomes purely structural, not experiential. Experience does not change. The museum does not echo with memory. It does not replay the day. Silence replaces residue. Residue would invite reflection. Reflection would require thought. Thought remains unnecessary. Air rests inside the building without movement. Movement would disturb balance. Balance remains intact. Every surface participates in holding quiet. No surface reflects more than another. Reflection would suggest depth. Depth would encourage awareness. Awareness diffuses further. The museum does not magnify silence. It contains it. Contains silence, feels stable. Stability allows release, does not feel deliberate. It occurs naturally. The absence of sound removes urgency from space. Nothing needs to be reached. Nothing needs to be avoided. The museum no longer frames distance through acoustics. Far and near feel similar. Similarity removes effort. Effort dissolves. A large gallery and a small corridor share the same acoustic. Weight does not change. Change would attract attention. Attention rests. The building's geometry no longer directs listening. Listening is optional. Optional listening does not activate. Focus. Focus loosens. The museum does not register presence through sound. It would remain the same whether occupied or not. This neutrality reduces responsibility. Responsibility fades. Quiet becomes the default condition, not a state that might end. Endings require expectation. Expectation disappears. Silence does not indicate time passing. Moments stretch evenly. Without sound, time loses texture. Texture would allow measurement. Measurement would engage the mind. The mind disengages. The museum does not require awareness to exist. It continues regardless. Silence does not build. It does not diminish. It remains constant. Constant conditions allow surrender. Surrender does not feel like loss. It feels like rest. The building does not listen. It does not respond. It simply holds. Rooms remain connected through shared quiet. Quiet does not signal connection. Connection does not need to be. Knowing is unnecessary. The museum exists as a unified acoustic volume. Subdivisions do not alter perception. Perception flattens gently. Flattened perception requires less effort. Effort fades completely. Silence no longer feels notable. It becomes background. Background does not require engagement. Engagement ends. The museum holds its form without sound. Sound is not needed to define space. Space defines itself. This self-definition remains unchanged. The building does not prepare for reopening. It does not anticipate noise. Anticipation would require change. Change is absent. Silence remains uninterrupted. The museum exists in acoustic equilibrium. Equilibrium does not call attention. Attention rests fully. Nothing interrupts the quiet. Nothing follows it. Everything remains evenly balanced in silence. After closing hours, silence in the museum does not announce itself. It settles gradually, without boundary. There is no moment when sound ends. It simply ceases to appear. This absence does not feel abrupt. It feels continuous. The building does not mark the transition. Walls do not change behavior. Ceilings do not react. Quiet spreads evenly, without direction. A corridor carries the same silence as a gallery. Distance does not thin it. Proximity does not thicken it. The museum's materials remain consistent: stone, glass, and would absorb without emphasis. Absorption prevents return. Return would suggest presence. Presence is absent. Silence does not echo. It rests. Resting quiet does not stimulate listening. Listening becomes unnecessary. The museum no longer frames sound as information. Information would require interpretation. Interpretation fades. Rooms feel suspended within the same acoustic field. Boundaries exist but do not register. Registration would require contrast. Contrast does not arise. The building's scale becomes neutral. Large and small spaces share the same stillness. This equality removes orientation pressure. Pressure would activate attention. Attention loosens further. Quiet does not move with the air. Air remains still. Still air supports still soundlessness. The museum does not accumulate silence. It does not deepen or thin. Silence remains constant. Constancy lowers vigilance. Vigilance dissolves. The building no longer participates in sound. It simply contains absence. Containment feels stable. Stability allows letting go. Letting go does not feel intentional. It occurs without decision. The museum does not anticipate reopening. Anticipation would disturb equilibrium. Equilibrium holds. No sound implies direction. No sound implies time. Time becomes diffuse, without acoustic cues. Moments merge. Merging moments reduce awareness of sequence. Sequence loses relevance. The museum remains present without acoustics guiding experience. Experience becomes optional. Optional. Experience does not require engagement. Engagement ends. Quiet does not reveal hidden detail. It does not sharpen perception. It softens it. Softened perception rests. The building does not register absence as loss. It continues unchanged. Unchanged conditions feel secure. Security removes alertness. Alertness fades completely. Silence no longer feels noticeable. It becomes the environment. Environment does not require attention. Attention withdraws. The museum exists as an even field of quiet. No area advances. No area recedes. Everything holds the same. Acoustic distance. Distance loses meaning. Meaning dissolves. The building remains balanced in stillness. Stillness does not resolve, it persists. Nothing interrupts it. Nothing follows it. The museum holds silence evenly. After closing hours, scale in the museum becomes easier to sense when nothing interrupts it. Without movement, space does not contract. Rooms no longer feel sized for people. They feel sized for air. Air occupies each volume evenly. It does not cluster or thin. This even occupation removes emphasis. Emphasis would require contrast. Contrast does not appear. Large halls no longer suggest gathering. Small rooms no longer suggest intimacy. Both remain neutral containers. Neutral containers do not suggest use. They simply remain. Walls define edges without meaning. Edges do not imply boundary in an emotional sense. Emotion requires narrative. Narrative dissolves. The museum no longer feels composed of destinations. It feels composed of intervals. Intervals do not require arrival. Arrival implies completion. Completion is unnecessary. The distance between ceiling and floor becomes noticeable, not as height, but as capacity. Capacity does not call attention. It allows release. Release spreads gently. Open spaces do not feel exposed. Exposure would require vulnerability. Vulnerability fades. Enclosed spaces do not feel protective. Protection would require threat. Threat is absent. The museum's volumes hold no expectation. Expectation would shape perception. Without expectation, scale remains steady. Hallways feel like extensions of rooms. Rooms feel like expansions of hallways. The distinction between them softens. Soft distinctions reduce orientation effort. Effort dissolves. The building does not emphasize vertical movement. Stairs exist without invitation. Levels do not feel separate. Separation would require hierarchy. Hierarchy is absent. The museum does not frame space to impress. It frames it to contain. Containment feels stable. Stability does not require monitoring. Monitoring ends. Large spaces do not magnify presence. Small spaces do not compress it. Presence feels evenly distributed. Even distribution calms. Perception. Perception no longer scans for difference. Difference fades. The museum becomes a continuous field of volume. Fields do not have focal points. Without focal points, attention drifts naturally. Drift does not require direction. Direction dissolves. The building does not communicate scale through ornament. Ornament would mark proportion. Proportion remains implicit. Implicit structure does not demand interpretation. Interpretation rests. Rooms no longer feel sized for viewing. They feel sized for existing. Existing does not require action. Action ends. The museum's architecture feels self-sufficient. It does not need activity to define scale. Scale remains consistent without use. Consistency lowers alertness. Alertness fades. The building does not expand or contract perceptually. It holds. Holding does not imply tension. Tension would require force. Force is absent. Space becomes background rather than subject. Background space does not ask to be noticed. Noticing relaxes. The museum does not create moments of compression or release. Volume does not pulse. Without pulse, time loses rhythm. Rhythm would divide experience. Experience becomes undivided. The building's interior feels evenly weighted. No area feels heavier or lighter. Weightless space allows rest. Rest spreads further. The museum exists as measured volume without emphasis. Measured does not mean calculated. It means settled. Settlement feels calm. The structure does not suggest movement through scale. Movement feels optional. Optional movement does not activate. Thought quiets. Space remains consistent, whether crossed or observed. Observation does not change. Volume. Change is absent. The museum holds its dimensions quietly. Space inside the museum no longer suggests intention. It does not point forward. It does not pull backward. Volume exists without instruction. Instruction would require direction. Direction would require purpose. Purpose has withdrawn. Rooms no longer feel designed for passage. They feel designed for holding. Holding does not imply containment. It implies stability. Stability removes urgency. Urgency dissolves. The distance between walls becomes neutral, neither close nor far. Neutral distance does not stimulate reaction. Reaction fades. The museum's interior does not scale emotionally. Large spaces do not feel overwhelming. Small spaces do not feel restrictive. Emotion would require contrast. Contrast is absent. The building's proportions no longer speak. They remain silent. Silence allows scale to exist without. Comparison would demand attention. Attention rests. The museum does not guide awareness upward or downward. Vertical movement loses meaning. Stairs remain without suggestion. Levels feel continuous rather than separate. Separation would require distinction. Distinction dissolves. The interior becomes a single continuous volume, softly divided but not experienced as fragmented. Fragmentation would interrupt perception. Perception remains smooth. The building does not compress space through use. Use has ended. Without use, space expands naturally. Expansion does not feel dramatic. It feels settled. The museum no longer frames how long a room should be occupied. Time does not attach to volume. Without time cues, space feels continuous. Continuity allows rest. The building does not invite presence through scale. Presence becomes optional. Optional presence does not require engagement. Engagement ends. Large galleries in narrow corridors share equal weight. Weightless volume does not demand awareness. Awareness diffuses. The museum does not emphasize transitions between spaces. Transitions occur without signal. Signal would require change. Change does not occur. The building holds volume without narrative. Narrative would assign meaning. Meaning dissolves. The interior does not perform scale. It maintains it. Maintenance does not require effort. Effort disappears. The museum's architecture becomes background. Background does not request focus. Focus releases. Space no longer competes with itself. No room asserts dominance. Dominance would require hierarchy. Hierarchy is absent. The building remains proportionate without measurement. Measurement would imply evaluation. Evaluation rests. The museum does not reduce or amplify perception through scale. Perception remains level. Level perception feels calm. Calm spreads. The interior holds air evenly across all volumes. Air does not gather or disperse. Even distribution removes emphasis. Emphasis would require attention. Attention quiets. The building does not suggest movement through scale. Movement feels unnecessary. Unnecessary movement does not activate thought. Thought rests. The museum's structure remains intact without observation. Observation does not alter volume. Alteration is absent. Space exists independently of awareness. Independence removes responsibility. Responsibility dissolves. The building does not conclude spatially. It does not open into something else. It simply remains. Remaining does not require action. Action ends. The museum holds its space evenly, without instruction, without emphasis. After closing hours, the museum becomes defined by repetition rather than movement. Order remains when activity leaves. The layout does not change, but its rhythm becomes more noticeable during the day. Rhythm is interrupted by people. At night, It continues, uninterrupted. Rooms follow one another in a predictable sequence, not because they are identical, but because they are arranged with consistency. Consistency creates order. Order does not demand attention. It allows awareness to soften. Corridors repeat familiar proportions. Doorways appear at regular intervals. This repetition stabilizes perception. Without variation, the mind stops anticipating difference. Anticipation requires effort. Effort fades. The museum's structure reveals its underlying pattern. Pattern does not communicate meaning. It communicates continuity. Continuity removes urgency. Walls repeat similar distances. Ceilings maintain similar heights. These repetitions form a quiet rhythm. Rhythm does not accelerate. It does not slow. It remains even. Even rhythm dissolves alertness. The museum does not surprise through layout. It reassures through predictability. Predictability reduces mental activity. Mental activity quiets. Rooms feel interchangeable without losing identity. Identity here is structural, not narrative. Narrative would require interpretation. Interpretation rests. The museum becomes a series of repeated spatial decisions. Each decision echoes the last dot. Echo does not create sound. It creates familiarity. Familiarity calms. The building does not guide attention forward. It allows it to drift. Drift follows rhythm naturally. Rhythm requires no instruction. Doorways open into rooms that resemble previous ones. Resemblance does not feel monotonous. It feels balanced. Balance removes tension. The museum does not emphasize sequence. Sequence exists without hierarchy. Hierarchy would break rhythm. Rhythm remains unbroken. Even when spaces change slightly, their underlying structure remains consistent. Consistency overrides difference. Difference fades. The museum does not encourage counting rooms or steps. Counting would disrupt flow. Flow continues evenly. The repetition of architectural elements creates a steady pace. Pace does not imply movement. It implies stability. Stability allows rest. The building does not accelerate experience. It does not decelerate it. Experience becomes uniform. Uniform experience does not. Demand engagement dissolves. The museum's rhythm does not announce itself. It is felt gradually. Gradual awareness does not interrupt calm. The structure repeats quietly. After closing hours, order inside the museum becomes clearer when nothing interrupts it. Without activity, repetition moves to the foreground. The same distances repeat from room to room. The same transitions occur again and again. This repetition is not exact, but it is consistent enough to feel stable. Stability reduces the need to observe. Observation fades. Corridors follow a familiar cadence. Doorways appear, then pass, then appear again. This cadence does not require tracking. It carries awareness gently. The museum's rhythm does not ask to be followed. It exists whether noticed or not. Rooms do not introduce themselves differently. They maintain similar proportions. Proportion repeats quietly. Quiet repetition removes emphasis. Emphasis would interrupt rhythm. The building does not vary scale dramatically. Variation would disrupt flow. Flow remains even. Even flow dissolves. Anticipation requires effort. Effort releases. The museum's order does not communicate direction. It communicates continuation. Continuation does not require decision. Decision-making rests. Each space follows the last without marking transition. Transitions soften. Soft transitions preserve rhythm. The museum does not contain sharp changes in layout. Sharpness would demand attention. Attention quiets. Architectural elements repeat without calling attention to themselves. Walls, floors, ceilings maintain steady relationships. These relationships form a pattern. Pattern does not require interpretation. Interpretation ends. The repetition of form allows the mind to release tracking. Tracking would require vigilance. Vigilance dissolves. The museum does not present variation to hold interest. Interest is unnecessary. Rooms feel ordered without feeling rigid. Rigidity would create tension. Tension fades. The building's internal rhythm does not signal progress. There is no beginning or end to sequence. Sequence exists without destination. Destination would imply completion. Completion is irrelevant. The museum's repetition continues evenly. No part of the layout demands focus. Focus releases further. The building does not challenge awareness. It supports rest through consistency. Consistency remains. Repetition becomes background. Background does not activate thought. Thought rests. The museum's rhythm does not speed up or slow down. It remains constant across distance. Constancy allows surrender. Surrender does not feel deliberate. It happens naturally. Rooms no longer suggest how long to remain. Time does not attach to order. Without time markers, rhythm becomes continuous. The building does not disrupt its own pattern. Pattern remains intact. The museum exists as a repeated arrangement of space. Arrangement does not require attention. Attention withdraws. The structure continues quietly, guided by repetition and order. After closing hours, repetition in the museum no longer feels sequential. It feels continuous. There is no sense of moving forward through order. Order simply remains. The building does not present variation to mark progress. Progress is unnecessary. Rooms align through shared proportions. Alignment removes the need to adjust. Adjustment would require awareness. Awareness softens further. The rhythm of the museum does not depend on movement. It exists even when nothing moves. This independent rhythm stabilizes perception. Stability allows release. Release does not require intention. It occurs naturally. The museum's order does not impose structure on experience. It supports it quietly. Support does not feel directive. It feels permissive. Permissive space allows attention to drift. Drift follows rhythm without effort. Doorways repeat at regular distances. Passing them does not register as choice. Choice dissolves. Without choice, there is no evaluation. Evaluation rests. The museum's layout repeats without becoming monotonous. Monotony would require awareness of repetition. Here, repetition fades into background. Background rhythm does not demand engagement. Engagement ends. Walls repeat familiar spacing. Ceilings maintain steady height. These repetitions anchor perception gently. Anchoring does not restrict movement. It removes urgency. Urgency dissolves. The building does not interrupt its own pattern. Pattern remains intact across rooms and corridors. Continuity does not announce itself. It is felt gradually. Gradual awareness does not disturb calm. The museum's order does not signal time passing. Time does not attach to repetition. Without temporal markers, rhythm becomes timeless. Timeless rhythm does not require monitoring. Monitoring ends. The structure does not vary to maintain interest. Interest is unnecessary. The repetition of architectural elements becomes reassuring. Reassurance does not stimulate thought. Thought quiets fully. The museum no longer suggests where attention should go. Attention becomes optional. Optional attention does not activate effort. Effort dissolves. The building's rhythm does not resolve. It does not conclude. Conclusion would require change. Change does not occur. Order remains consistent without emphasis. Consistency supports rest. The museum exists as a steady arrangement of repeated space. The arrangement does not call attention to itself. Attention withdraws completely. The structure continues evenly, shaped by order and repetition. After closing hours, time inside the museum changes its behavior. It no longer moves in steps. It spreads. Without activity, moments stop separating clearly. There is no before or after, only continuation. The museum does not signal time passing. Clocks become irrelevant. Irrelevance removes awareness. Rooms no longer feel occupied by minutes. They feel occupied by stillness. Stillness does not measure duration. It removes it. The absence of movement stretches perception, not by slowing it, but by smoothing it. Smooth time does not interrupt itself. The museum does not hold pauses between events. Events are absent. Without events, time loses anchors. Anchors would require change. Change does not occur. The building remains unchanged from moment to moment. Sameness dissolves temporal markers. Without markers, duration becomes indistinct. A corridor entered feels the same as a corridor remembered. Memory does not separate from presence. This overlap softens awareness of sequence. Sequence requires progression. Progression fades. The museum does not prepare for the next moment. It does not transition. Transition would imply movement. Movement is absent. Rooms do not age perceptibly during stillness. They remain constant. Constancy removes urgency. Urgency would pull attention forward. Attention rests. Time does not feel delayed. It feels suspended. Suspension does not feel temporary. It feels stable that the museum does not wait. Waiting implies anticipation. Anticipation dissolves. Ceilings do not indicate time through light shifts. Light remains constant. Constancy prevents division of moments. The museum's stillness does not deepen. It does not thin dot. It remains even. Even stillness flattens temporal perception. The mind no longer tracks duration. Tracking would require variation. Variation is absent. Rooms feel unchanged, whether seconds or hours pass. Passing does not register. Registration would require awareness. Awareness softens further. The museum does not move toward reopening. It does not retreat from it. Future and past lose distinction. Distinction dissolves. The building exists in a continuous present. Present without edge. Edges would define time. Time dissolves. The absence of motion removes sequence from space. Space remains without order in time. Order in time would require rhythm. Rhythm fades. The museum's stillness does not signal how long it has lasted. Duration becomes irrelevant. Irrelevance allows release. Release spreads gently. Rooms do not suggest how long one should remain. Remaining does not accumulate time. Accumulation would imply measurement. Measurement rests. The museum does not experience waiting. It experiences continuation. Continuation does not imply length. Length dissolves. Time no longer presses against awareness. Awareness loosens. The building holds stillness evenly across. Moments blend. The museum exists quietly within this blend. After closing hours, time inside the museum no longer progresses through noticeable change. It remains present without direction. Moments do not arrive. They do not depart. They overlap quietly. The museum does not react to duration. Hours do not alter its state. Alteration would imply movement. Movement is absent. Rooms remain unchanged as time passes. Passing does not register. Registration would require contrast. Contrast does not appear. The building does not acknowledge minutes or hours. It holds stillness evenly. Even stillness removes awareness of sequence. Sequence dissolves. The absence of activity removes reference points. Without reference points, time loses structure. Structure in time would require rhythm. Rhythm fades. The museum does not accelerate or decelerate experience. Experience becomes uniform. Uniform experience does not divide. Moments blend further. Light does not shift to mark time. Sound does not change. Change would indicate passage. Passage is not indicated. The museum exists within a continuous present. This present does not expand or contract. It remains. The building does not remember earlier moments. It does not anticipate later ones. Memory and expectation dissolve. Only presence remains. Presence does not imply awareness. It implies continuation. Continuation does not feel long or short. Length dissolves. Rooms feel detached from time. They are not measured by duration. Duration would require counting. Counting rests. The museum's stillness does not deepen as time passes. It does not become heavier. Weight remains constant. Constant weight does not demand attention. Attention loosens further. The building does not accumulate stillness. It does not release it. Stillness remains evenly distributed. Distribution does not change. Change would draw awareness. Awareness remains soft. Time does not move through the museum like a current. It settles like air. Air does not hurry. Hurrying would imply direction. Direction fades. The museum does not indicate how long it has been empty. Empty does not accumulate age. Age would require difference. Difference does not arise. The absence of movement removes urgency from time. There is no sense of waiting. Waiting would require anticipation. Anticipation dissolves. The building does not prepare for reopening. Preparation would imply sequence. Sequence ends. Rooms do not suggest beginnings or endings. They remain continuous. Continuity flattens temporal awareness. Awareness relaxes. The museum does not hold time as memory. It holds it as presence. Presence does not require attention. Attention withdraws moments. Boundaries would separate. Separation dissolves. The museum exists within still time. Time exists without motion. Motionless time does not demand response. Response ends. The building holds this condition steadily. Time inside the museum no longer feels measurable. There is no sense of accumulation. Barred minutes do not add up. Hours do not weigh more than moments. The building does not acknowledge duration. It remains unchanged regardless of how long stillness lasts. This absence of temporal response dissolves awareness of passing. Passing becomes irrelevant. Rooms feel detached from sequence. They are not earlier or later than one another. Sequence would require order in time. Order fades. The museum does not hold anticipation for what comes next. Next loses meaning. Meaning would require progression. Progression dissolves. Stillness does not deepen over time. It does not intensify. It remains constant. Constant. Stillness removes urgency. Urgency would pull attention forward. Attention rests. The building does not respond to lengthening silence. Silence does not grow. It simply remains present. Presence without change flattens. Temporal perception. Flattened time feels calm. Calm spreads evenly. The museum does not experience boredom. Boredom would require awareness of duration. Awareness dissolves. The interior does not mark intervals. There are no cues. Without cues, time becomes diffuse. Diffusion removes edges. Edges would separate. Moments Moments blend fully. The museum exists without before or after. Only continuation remains. Continuation does not feel long. It does not feel short. It feels neutral. Neutral time does not demand engagement. Engagement ends. The building does not accumulate night. Night does not alter it. Alteration would imply transition. Transition does not occur. Rooms remain identical to themselves across time. Identity does not shift. Shift would require change. Change is absent. The museum does not respond to hours of emptiness. It holds emptiness evenly. Even holding does not imply waiting. Waiting would imply expectation. Expectation dissolves. Time no longer presses against awareness. Awareness loosens completely. The building remains within still time. Still time does not resolve. It persists. Persistence does not signal length. Length loses meaning. The museum does not move toward morning. Morning does not exist here. Existence remains contained. Contained. Time does not flow. Flow would require direction. Direction fades. The interior does not anticipate sound. Sound is irrelevant. Irrelevance removes temporal. Focus. Focus withdraws. The museum exists as a condition rather than a moment. Conditions do not end. Endings would require sequence. Sequence is absent. The building remains unchanged within this condition. Unchanged. Space supports rest. Rest spreads. Time no longer frames. Experience. Experience becomes optional. Optional. Experience does not activate thought. Thought rests fully. The museum holds stillness without duration, without sequence, without conclusion. After closing hours. Hello there. This is a calm space designed for rest. There is nothing you need to focus on, and nothing you need to remember. You can listen, or simply let the sound pass by. If you fall asleep, that is perfectly fine. Allow your body to settle. Let your breathing slow, and let your attention soften. We will begin now.